Yeah. Hey, Jamie, what's going on, man? I'm glad to have you here.
Dude, thanks for having me. I'm super stoked. I've been watching all of these and, it feels like quite an honor to be here live with you. So I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you being here. So, for those who have not seen one of these yet, what Jamie was referring to is this is about our sixth one, I believe. We do these live chats with just amazing photographers here in the MagMod community. Jamie, you happen to be one of those guys that was on the radar. And not only are you an incredible photographer, but you're also super active in the community and helping people out. And so, posting and doing all kinds of stuff. So, we appreciate you being here. Um, and then for those who haven't seen one of these yet, typically the way we have been doing this, the format so far is we invite these photographers to come on and share 5 or 6 images and just kind of talk about how they use MagMod modifiers in their work. And hopefully it gives you guys some ideas on when you're out shooting, you can, think about, oh, I saw Jamie do this, or actually I saw a post this week, actually, Jamie, in the group that somebody said they saw the video of Justin and I talking, and then they went out and they did a shot, it was in the trees and the silhouette. It was really cool. So I bet people will be inspired by you today as well.
Dude, that's rad. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Helping each other out. And
I
yeah,
mean,
I agree.
I I know personally I draw a ton of inspiration from this group. I see what other people are doing, and I'm just like, wow, I'd never thought about using them in that way before, or just kind of pushing the boundaries of what we think is capable. So I fully believe that the MagMod community has allowed me to significantly step up my game just by seeing what everyone else is doing and trying to apply it to my own work.
I wholeheartely agree with you there. I feel the exact same way. I see the way people are doing stuff. In fact, we were just chatting prior to this, and some of the images that you created there, and the way you use MagMod, it's like, gosh, it's so inspiring. So I can't wait for people to see some of this stuff. I just want to mention one more thing real quick, guys. If you aren't able to watch live, we do post these videos up on our YouTube channel. And so if you just look on YouTube, Magnet Mod, you can subscribe to the channel. And if you subscribe, then every time we post, it will let you know. I think YouTube sends like a weekly email and says, hey, here's what's gone up, or you can get notifications when it goes live at that moment. So yeah, definitely. If you can't watch it live, then check out the YouTube channel. The benefit of watching it live, of course, is if you guys have any questions, feel free to post those, and we'll try to feed those over to Jamie. So with that being said, Jamie, again, super appreciate it. And I'm going to turn the time over to you and let you let's talk about some of maybe the first image. Actually, before we do that, Jamie, one last question. Can you tell everyone where you're located, and how they can find more information about you?
Yeah, I am the co-owner of Redwood and Rye Studio. We are based about 30 minutes west of Boston. It's a nice cold winter day here in New England, trying to stay warm inside. But yeah, we specialize in wedding photography. This year we're looking to shoot probably between 80 and 100 weddings overall for our studio. We have
Wow.
4 photographers, so it's not an insane workload, but quite a few. And one of the things that we really try and do for our clients is give them a fresh approach on wedding photography. We hear it all too often that the majority of websites our clients land on are very similar, a lot of the same types of images, the same type of lighting. So we're striving to do something completely different. So when they land on us, they're just like, wow, who are these guys? And what do I need to do to book them? And a major, major part of that is our use of the MagMod system. We're using it, 80 to 90% of our day sometimes. I don't even know how I would do what I do without it anymore. It's become such an important part of our workflow that when I step back and I look at some images that we've created, or even things that I've done before I'd heard of MagMod, I can't even think of how I approached it before, the time that was involved in it, messing around with different modifiers and trying to get the light placed exactly where I want it. MagMod has seriously changed the way we do everything. So yeah, like I'm so
That's
stoked to be
rad.
here with you guys and share a little bit about what we're doing and the thought process behind it.
That's rad. No, we really appreciate that. We'll make sure to send out your Christmas bonus check a little bit early for all the good work.
I appreciate it, along with another one of these shirts.
Oh yes, yeah. I was telling Jamie when we logged on here, I was surprised he had one of those because we only printed like maybe 20 or 30 of those, and basically we used them just for people at the trade show. I think we should print more of them because I love the shirt. So I was surprised. I guess Timothy hooked you up because you had donated some flashes to us for the trade show. So
Yeah, I
um,
strong armed
so
him.
That's awesome.
Cool. So you want to dig right in?
Yeah, let's dive right in. If you want to share your screen and pick the first image, and we'll talk a little bit about it.
Right. So let's. Can you see that?
And yep, absolutely.
All right.
One of my favorites.
Cool. So yeah, this photo was taken in a mansion in Rhode Island. I was actually second shooting for another person in the MagMod community, Shannon Cronin, on this day. And we were trying to scout the location and find out where we were going to be setting up the first look and portraits and all that good stuff. And as soon as I walked into this like stairwell area, I was immediately inspired and knew that I really wanted to do something here and that I wanted to light it and try and kind of bring in some of the ambiance that's in the room already, or in the hallway, or whatever you want to call it. So this took a little bit of trial and error and working from different angles to find out where I eventually wanted to shoot from. I was shooting with a 16 millimeter lens here. Let's see, I just want to make sure that I'm correct. Yeah, so I was shooting with a 16 millimeter lens here, and I kind of worked around from a bunch of different angles before we ever brought it to the clients about where we are going to be setting this up. I shot from the bottom of the staircase. I shot from obviously this vantage point here and a bunch of different variations of this on this landing. And then I also shot from above just to kind of see what it all looked like through the camera lens, to narrow down exactly where I wanted to go. I wasn't sure if I wanted him to stand at the bottom of just one set of stairs with her at the top, or it eventually worked into what we're seeing here. So basically what I did is, and I can show you guys the forethought ahead of this. I knew once I settled on my location where I was going to be shooting that I was going to have to be dealing with these flash stands and light in my way, just based on how I wanted the couple to be presented. Mm-hmm. I knew that I wasn't, for instance, the light stand in the bottom alcove. I knew that there's actually door frames on either side of that. And if I had put the flash off to the side in one of those door frames, I was going to be casting the groom's shadow along one of the walls or the edge of the staircase, which is not what I wanted at all. I wanted that nice, strong shadow coming up the staircase, a nice straight leading line to match all the rest of the lead lines, keep it kind of parallel. And so I knew that I was going to have to place a light stand there right in the center of that alcove, and it was going to be a big pain in the butt on the back end, but that was all I was able to do given that situation and knowing exactly how I wanted to light it. You'll see at the top there of the bride, there's also a flash mounted up in that other little alcove, kind of just highlighting her back. Behind me, there's actually a gigantic window, floor to ceiling, probably 15 feet plus tall by 20 feet wide, maybe, creating a lot of ambient light, that fill light that we're getting on the foreground and on the bride herself. So essentially, all I was doing was using mag grids to kind of highlight the subjects and separate them a bit from the background, so they're just not bleeding into it.
It's such an incredible image, and I love like that flash down at the bottom. Even though you knew that you're going to have to Photoshop it out, it helps so much in just giving that groom that rim light, to make him really stand out. Otherwise, he would have been so dark, especially where the wall, after it goes beyond the floor. And then I love the way you thought about making that shadow so it stretches across the stairs that way, as opposed to the walls or what have you. And the lines, of course, everything about this image is just phenomenal. I really enjoy it. I even love the dynamic range of it. Like, you can see detail in the shadows as well as in the highlights. And it's definitely one of those images I could see like hanging in the WPPI award area. It's amazing, dude.
Well, only time will tell, right? So, but yeah, so for the shot, thank you. I appreciate that very much. I had a lot of different thoughts, especially with the groom and where to place him. I thought about putting him kind of along the wall somewhere, and giving a side profile to him. But I I'm crazy about symmetry, um,
Yeah.
which sometimes drives my business partner wild because I do a lot of center framed images, my couple right in the center, and I know that breaks all the laws or what everyone thinks we should be doing, always placing on thirds. But um, something about symmetry screams at me, and that led me to really wanting him to be placed right in the center there, which ultimately led to the shadow where I'm going to be casting that shadow and everything else.
Yeah.
Um, Also, something I didn't mention: both flashes were gridded, and they also, I believe, had a half CTO. It's either a quarter or a half CTO on each of the flashes to kind of balance that tungsten orange light that we get from the lamps and everything overhead.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, otherwise you would have had kind of almost like a bluish glow around the guy, for example, which yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Super cool, dude. I absolutely love it. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. So I'm so glad you picked this one to share. And can we see that behind the scenes one more time?
Absolutely.
So you got rid of the flashes, you'd mentioned you got rid of the side table there too, and I think you did that just so that you could have that better kind of that symmetry of the door frame and the guy standing right there in the middle without anything avoiding it, right?
Yeah, I found it super distracting.
Yeah.
And the thing, we even were going to move it before we did the photo, but it weighed like a couple 100 pounds, believe it or not. The
What?
top of it, I think, was just
It's like made
solid
out of
marble.
cement. Oh,
Dude,
geez.
the top was solid marble. So we went to pick it up, and I was like, yeah, screw that. I'm just gonna clone it out later.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Nice. I think one of the things that people need to recognize too, a good photographer is able to see the final result of an image before they even snap the photo. And that's one of the things that really makes MagMod special is how those people that really stand out that are creating incredible shots with MagMod modifiers are the people that can really like they're visionaries. They really see the image. They know, I'm going to put a gel here, or I'm going to do this here, and they see that image before they even snap it. And that's what you did here, which is awesome. In fact, Jamie, if you don't mind, you had another image that you showed me. It was one that had kind of a red backdrop. It was a silhouette, had some of the blue kind of bokeh in the foreground. Can we talk about that one next? Because that was another one where I just you completely blew me away in that you like visioned this and then you created it. So tell us about this one.
Yeah, this photo actually came inspired by, I believe it was Sean LeBlanc or Justin Haugen. They did something similar with shooting through wine glasses that I really loved. So I put that in like the Rolodex in the back of my head, and then when the moment came, I tried to execute based on that inspiration. But this photo is actually built from the ground up. We had a completely raw canvas. The wall behind the couple was this off-white, beige, ugly, ugly wall that we knew wouldn't really be attractive for our clients if we're delivering them a final photo with this ugly, gross wall. So
Uh-huh.
we had to take this idea and just build from the ground up and what we wanted to do. So this was also right about the time I received the Kickstarter from you guys with the MagBeam.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, gung ho on getting a bunch of MagBeam shots and playing with it just so I can begin to understand that it still boggles my mind how all of the MagBeam stuff works, but so I can begin to understand that tool and how to begin to use it in our workflow. So what we did here is this is in the middle of the reception. The couple's actually downstairs on the dance floor. This is kind of like a loft area above their reception area, and we took this plain wall and decided that we had to change that first. So Trevor, you and I were talking a little bit before about how I love contrasting colors. I'm very inspired by other people using contrasting colors. So I knew right off the bat that we were going to work on that idea. We busted out the Mag Beam with the glint mask, I believe it was. And
Mm-hmm.
it's placed about 3 feet off of the ground, camera right, um, between the couple and the wall, aimed up at the wall. So it's kind of giving that effect of spreading out and up.
Yeah.
And then in the foreground, what we actually did is we pulled a table over and we ransacked the bar for as many wine glasses and champagne flutes as we could find. And we just kind of started stacking them on this table and creating different patterns with the glasses and shooting through them. And what we did to create the blue bokeh on these wine glasses is we set a flash with the blue creative gel and I believe a MagGrid camera left between the couple and the wine glasses, and we had the light aimed back at the wine glasses towards the camera. So that way, when the light's firing, it's bouncing around in the wine glasses and creating all these specular highlights to give us the bokeh.
That's
crazy,
and then, dude.
From there, it was just a bunch of trial and error. This shot probably took about, I want to say 10 to 15 minutes of trial and error and stacking these glasses at different depths and different heights and trying to find what we liked. We had done a bunch where we created patterns with the glasses as well, but I didn't love it as much. I really wanted this kind of scattered bokeh look, almost like I'm shooting through string lights. So yeah, it just took a bunch of trial and error of shifting stuff around to get this final result. And then when we were ready, we simply brought the client up, put them in place, and we joked around with them for a couple minutes. And as they settle into the moment, I just shot this frame as they were settling in.
It's such a rad image. Would you say, Jamie, this is something that you could do? Like, did you do this during the reception? Is that when you were setting it up?
Yes, we did it during the reception. It was just like dancing. The dance floor was open at that point.
Yeah, and you pulled the couple out for just a second to grab that shot. You know what I love about it is I love how you have that bokeh in the foreground, but then in the background using that glint mask, it looks like additional bokeh. Like that's I never would have thought, especially on the left hand side when it kind of fades off there. That's what it resembles to me. That's what it looks like. I love that look. It almost like they're just in focus right in between these two, areas of bokeh in the foreground and the background.
You know what I think actually added to that, to looking like more bokeh in the background, was the fact that we have the bokeh in the foreground. Because had we not had that, I believe you would start to see the lines and the geometric shapes from the mask. So I think that foreground bokeh starts to hide a little bit of that, a little bit of the dark spots, the contrasty spots. And I agree, it came out looking kind of like fire bokeh or something in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. I think somebody's calling you right now to basically hire you after they saw this image.
It's probably just a telemarketer.
Hey, you are not listed at Google or whatever. You need to update your Google listing. Yeah. Super rad, man. Absolutely love it. Very cool. Did you mention what lens you shot this with? I didn't catch that.
This was, I took a bunch of notes for all you guys so that I could just refer to them. This was with an 85. And I was shooting at ISO 400, f2.5, obviously a low depth of field to get that bokeh in there. And then my shutter speed was 1/200, which it typically is when I'm shooting with off-camera flash. I try and kill whatever ambient I can.
Nice. So TJ is asking if it was a mag beam for the background, and yeah. So TJ, the way Jamie had explained was he used the mag beam behind them with a glint, and so with the glint mask is what he had mentioned. And then TJ went on an orange shell. Yeah, that's right. And then TJ had mentioned that you're a beast.
Thanks. Thanks, man. It's all gathered from inspiration I receive in the community and through fellow photographers I follow.
Yeah, no, and guys, we appreciate the comments. Occasionally, these comments, Facebook only shows us like 4 or 5 at a time when we're on these live broadcasts. So we apologize if we do miss a comment. As we've done in the past, Jamie, if you wouldn't mind, maybe over the next 48 hours, if you see any particular questions under the video, maybe you can just respond, or I'd be happy to do as much as I can, as well as helping people understand how you created certain images. But guys, right after, just so you know, right after we post a live video, once we finish, it takes about 10 minutes or 15 minutes for Facebook to process things and allow us to actually comment on the photo. So I just want to give you guys a heads up as well, in case you're wondering, if your comment disappeared or whatever, it's probably because Facebook is just processing and it'll pop it right back up again. So, but with that, we still have quite a few more images I'm going to go through. And Jamie, I know one thing that you are incredible at is like toast. That was one thing you had mentioned that you love doing as well. So, real quick, Raylene just asked one quick question: were the glasses empty? The glasses in the
Glasses were
foreground.
empty. Yes.
Okay.
I
And
mean,
the
they were
reason they're
some of them were upside down and everything too. Go ahead, Trevor. Sorry.
yeah. Well, I'm saying the reason they were blue is because you used a blue gel there. So you had an orange gel in the back and you had a blue gel in front, and basically you're looking for that total contrast of colors. Awesome.
Correct. Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. So moving on to toasts. Yes, toasts are probably second in line behind creative portraits on my favorite thing to do on the day. We were talking about it before, Trevor. Toasts just offer us a little bit of time, and the majority of the time stagnant subjects, so we can really begin to work through ideas and try and test stuff out and all of that stuff. So this is definitely one of my more favorite parts of the day to shoot, because I know that I have 5 to 10 minutes to kind of experiment after I get the shots that I need, and then that experimentation, I guess, is what kind of helps us all reach the next level that we're trying to achieve. So yeah. So
Yeah.
for this toast shot, I have a couple different angles and a sort of behind the scenes frame for you guys. This was shot with 2 flashes, both with a MagGrid. I think this was before the days I was that I always had a quarter C2 on my flash. You can see like their skin tones are a bit cool, but I had one flash behind me, to my left a little bit, directed at my couple here, and then the other flash was actually far right, almost 90 degrees to my right, pointed at the groomsman who was actually giving the toast. So if we can see here, you guys will kind of have to work through it. This is me. I went outside to start working some other angles and see what else I could find and see. But if you can see where the big flash burst is going off towards the left hand of the frame, that flash is the one that is aimed at the couple. Mm-hmm. And then the one that's more towards the foreground between the bursting flash and this woman that's standing right behind the pane of glass is my other flash that is aimed at the groomsman giving the toast. And what you actually can't see is to the left, there's about 6 videographers and another photographer just in the center of the dance floor filming and shooting this whole thing too. So this wedding was kind of a pain just because I was working around so many people at this time also. You can even see the guy's video light, to the left of my flashes set up and aimed at the couple as well.
Yeah,
So,
no, you're right. It's funny how sometimes we'll get those dance floors where, they, like you said, there's 3 or 4 videographers and a couple of photographers, and it's like it gets full. So it's cool that you kind of moved around and were able to get these different shots as well. And I love being able to see the behind the scenes there.
I mean, I definitely try and work as many angles as possible when I'm shooting. Everyone who works with me says that I look like a chicken with my head cut off, just running around aimlessly. And I really, something I learned from other photographers was to test a lot of angles and find the ones that work, and then start shooting those angles to get great photos, and to focus more on the emotion and what's actually happening rather than where I'm shooting from once I've found where I want to shoot from, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You mentioned other photographers. Is there certain ones that you kind of inspire you when you're working?
Oh my, so many. Lanny and Erica Mann, first and foremost. I absolutely love their work. It blows my mind every time I see it. Yeah. Tony and Amy Hoffer are huge up there for me. There's a lot. Easton and Laura Reynolds, obviously. Actually, Easton is the one who turned me on to MagMod a few years ago. So,
nice.
Yeah. He told me, he's like, dude, you got to check out these modifiers. They're so awesome. And I did. And, it's like a match made in heaven, I guess. There's so many people that I gather information from, or gather inspiration from, and want to listen to what they have to say, that, I mean, I could probably just sit here for the next half hour and rattle off names that people I'm trying to learn from.
That's awesome, dude. Well, hey, just a couple. Well, I was gonna say before you finish that photo, I just want to mention a couple of these comments before they roll. Tiffany says, "Jamie, you rock." Margaret says, "I think you're a ninja, not a chicken." So,
thanks, Margaret.
Paul mentions incredible work. Thanks for sharing. And then, of course, Dan Dalstra says, "Baller, shot caller."
I love Dan.
I probably need to say that in Dan's voice, but guys, hey, real quick, I just want to mention one more time, we appreciate the comments. So any comments, questions you guys have, post them up. If you guys enjoy these live chats as well, give the video a little like. It lets us know that, hey, this is something you guys want to see in the community. So be sure to do that as well. Sorry, Jamie, I'm gonna let you go back to this image.
Oh, cool. So just that whole idea of working angles. This is another angle from outside. I continued to work that angle to try and tell a little bit more of that story of the location where they are. This venue is Belmare in Newport, Rhode Island. It's like a highly coveted venue for couples. When people get married here, they want the world to know about it, basically. So knowing that, I just wanted to try and step outside and show a little bit of the grounds. Unfortunately, the best angle, I wouldn't be able to get the couple, but there's an angle that shows the the Atlantic Ocean and the Newport Bridge. There's like a very iconic angle that I would have loved to have shot from, but given the space, I wasn't allowed to do it. And then again, with working angles, this is one I posted in the group about a year ago, and it got a ton of interaction. This is from the same wedding, same light setup, and maybe the shadows here on the groom's face can help to pinpoint where that light was coming from a little bit more for people. Yeah, so two separate lights, one lighting the groom here and one lighting one of these groomsmen who was obviously saying something funny at the time. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. And then what did you use to make sure that light was super controlled? Did you use mag grids on those?
Grids, yeah. It's very rare that you'll find me without a grid on a flash. Sometimes I will add on the sphere, which we'll talk about an image later where we use the sphere. But by and large, man, the grid it's my go-to. I know exactly what I'm going to get every time I use it. And I think because of the repetition of doing this, 30 to 40 plus times a year, I don't really have to think about it anymore. I can set them down in place. I know my go-to settings and just have to make slight adjustments from there. So I'm pretty much ready to rock the moment I put the stands on the ground.
Yeah. Love it. Hey, Jamie, can you go back to the very first image you showed of the toast? There was, I think one thing that's important to point out too is you talked about this venue and you mentioned the ocean. So yeah, that one there. Yeah, I mean, if you had not controlled your ambient there and brought it down basically, then your background would have been blown out. You would have had white highlights. You would have had a white ocean, a white sky behind them. Had you been shooting any kind of natural light in this venue or, trying to boost your ISO and slow down your shutter and that kind of stuff. So I think that's something worth noting is good photographers are able to use light to basically, control the ambient so they can have that balance of light on their subject as well as being able to show the scene, like you have here with the ocean and so forth. So
absolutely. I mean, before off-camera flash, I'd shot this venue probably 15 times, and every single one of my photos looked exactly like what you're saying, where there's zero definition in the background. It's just these, almost floor-to-ceiling windows here or doors, and no information behind them, just pure white. So that balancing of the flash and the ambient is something that we find so important. I do not love white skies. I would rather see them as we see them with our eye. I want them blue. So, I mean, without working flash, it's just not possible unless you're a master at Photoshop.
Yeah, or you have like some crazy camera with incredible dynamic range that you can, you can even bring it back. So, hey, one of the questions Justin had is he said, did you have multiple grids in multiple locations? And yeah, so Justin, if I'm not mistaken, Jamie, you had two flashes. One was pointed towards the couple, one was pointed towards the speaker. Jamie had showed an image earlier. If you guys get a chance, you can go back and you can see, you can actually, if you look really close, you can kind of see where those two flashes are. And then Shelly had asked, Jamie, do you double grid? Do you ever use two grids stacked, or do you normally just use one grid?
I do in certain situations. I didn't include any photos in this thing where I double grid, but we will use a double grid a lot for detail photos, for things like rings, or sometimes we'll use the snoot also for that because it just makes our life easier than having to stack grids. But I do double grid when I have when I need a very, very tight light source. It's not very often. I'd say maybe like 5 to 10% of the time are we stacking multiple grids, but there
Yeah.
definitely are circumstances where that arises.
Awesome. And then Dominique had one more question. She said, did you have other flashes set up for guest reactions? I'm guessing in this
No,
scenario, probably not. Yeah.
no, I always shoot with another photographer. I'll always have a second photographer with me. And what I do is I focus on bride and groom reactions and the speaker, and my second shooter focuses on guest reactions.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Very cool.
I figure that way we're able to cover more of the room at the same time. And honestly, how many photos do people need of someone giving a toast? 4 or 5 really solid images is what we'll deliver, and I don't want to give them 20 or 30. So it makes more sense to send someone out to do stuff that I'm unable to do at that moment because of the way I have my lights set up.
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, it would just be the photos would just be so different, like stark contrast when you look at them next to each other, of the toast being lit and then the guests being all ambient, and having to bump my ISO way up and stuff like that.
Yeah. Along those same lines, when it comes to guest reactions, typically I'll personally only focus on some of the VIPs anyways, like the parents,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So yeah, they're great shots. They're fun to have. But obviously the most important is the bridegroom and the person toasting. So great question though, Dominique, and I appreciate you asking that. So Jamie,
Cool.
let's move on. Let's show some more images before we run out of time here. You have so many great ones. I want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to see these.
How about the ceremony?
Yeah, let's do that one.
Um, I've seen the conversation in the community over and over about lighting in churches during wedding ceremonies and how it can be distracting, or church ladies or priests or whoever won't let you do it. It's something that is a regular part of our workflow whenever we are in that situation. Not many of our couples get married in churches, or not many of my couples, I should say. But when they do, they're still expecting the same type of work out of us. So that being the case, we strike up a conversation with either the priest or whoever is running that, facilitating that part of the day at the church, tell them about what we do, and then we'll actually show them an example. So we'll set up our light stands and pop off the flash a bunch of times so that they can see with their own eyes that it's not distracting. But so for this photo, outside of the frame on either side, there are pillars that run the length of the church, and we hid those flashes. They each have a quarter CTO and a grid. We hid those behind the pillars so the guests can't even see the flash firing. All the guests can see is the split second when light falls on the couple's face, and I don't even think they realize it's happening. Half the time when we're showing examples, people tell us they don't even see it. So even better. But the whole idea is that we want to show the space as it is. We don't want it to look different than what we really see with our own eye. We're always striving for that. And adding flash in the ceremony, in a church ceremony, really helps us to do that. So this photo, I was shooting by myself this day, ironically enough. And I shot a couple photos that were just 100% ambient, and I'm glad I did now so you guys can see the examples. But this is what it looks like without any flash. This is just the natural light, overhead light that's provided by the church. So
it looks like my ceremony photos.
Mine too, man. Yeah, I wish MagMod existed when I got married. Yeah, but so I really feel like just seeing these two photos next to each other or one after the other can really help to show that we're able to highlight our couple, and we're able to give like a sense of place and a mood without it being overbearing flash in our subjects' faces or distracting to the guests and all that stuff too.
That's rad, dude. I love it. So just to reemphasize what you said earlier, your flashes were to the right and to the left, basically pointed towards the couple, essentially to light up their face and kind of give them a rim light on, for example, the bride's dress is a good way to look at that.
Yeah,
And then you just lowered. Go ahead.
and actually the placement of the flash, they are behind pillars, but if you can see, there's some shadowing on the front side of their faces, or the camera side.
Hmm.
That's because the flash was actually positioned so that it was behind the couple, if that makes any sense. So the majority of the light was crossing the side of their face that we don't see in this photo. It's on like that backside where the priest is.
Yeah.
And we did that to create that shadow on the front is intentional, and that's to kind of create some of that contrast and that separation. Um, Otherwise, it would just, the light would just be a bit more flat, which we've done. You know, our couples go either way. We'll talk to people in their initial consult if they're having a church ceremony, and we can show them examples of this type of lighting setup where they have that nice shadow, creating a little bit of contrast, versus a bit more of a flat light, where the light is falling completely on the front of them.
Nice. And how high up were your stands?
Probably about 8 feet, and 20 feet back.
Okay.
20 feet from center on either side, I would say. How
Nice.
wide are church pews? They're that wide. That's how far out of frame they are.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, gotcha. Very cool, man. Love it, dude. Super, super cool image.
Cool. So want to keep
Uh,
plugging away?
yeah, let's keep plugging away. I think you had a couple more there, and I would love for people to see what you have, and I, like I said, I've been blown away by your work. So
I feel like I'm gonna just say over and over, this photo is inspired by, um, this is inspired by Seth Kirchanen, another amazing MagMod community member. Super
yeah,
awesome dude. I watch him post these composite groomsmen portraits, like, you know, 5 to 10 times per season. And every time I'm just blown away. So one time I was given the opportunity to create one myself. We had about 10 extra minutes between like first look and family portraits and then the ceremony start time. So knowing that there was this billiard room in the I don't know what you would call it, a cottage, I guess. They say it's a mansion, but it was the smallest mansion I've ever seen. Um, they had this billiard room. It was extremely ugly. Behind these guys, there are these gross brown burgundy leather couches, TV and green walls, and it was awful. So
yeah,
I wanted to create something cool. So what I did was I put my camera on the tripod. We attached, again, it was a quarter CTO and a grid, broken record over here, and this is actually a 6-shot composite. So we really darkened down the room. I think I shot this at like ISO 50 or 100 at 200th of a second to try and kill every speck of ambient light that was in that room. And then we focused on highlighting the groom and the groomsmen with just the flash and the pool table itself. So I was sitting there with like a remote shutter release and camera on a tripod. We got all these guys positioned, told them they had to stay really still, and it was literally like we were just running down the line. I think we probably took 2 or 3 frames of each guy and just moved right down the line, lit them all individually, and then I also lit the pool table individually. And then in post, it was as simple as opening up all those files and basically just masking them in on each layer where they needed to be.
yeah, dude. This shot, I keep shaking my head over here just because the more I look at it, it's just such an incredible shot. I love the way the guys are posed. I'm assuming the groom is the guy up in the front, right, on the right hand
Yeah.
side of the image,
Yes.
and just have him standing, 4 or 5 feet closer to the camera, make him bigger, make him really stand out, make him, different from the pack. Like everything about this image is just incredible, dude.
Thanks,
Such a
man.
sweet shot.
I mean, I think that when we look at our own work, there are a million things I would do different now if I took this shot again. Um, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I love the lighting on these guys' faces and how, a couple of them have like a Rembrandt light, or one has a Rembrandt, one has almost a split light. There's like some broad lighting in there. There's a whole lot of different lighting styles happening in this photo. And I mean, I feel like that was a lot of luck on our part, the way that turned out. But it makes it look like that piece was thought out well in advance and that we executed for those lighting styles on each one of those guys. Um,
Yeah.
so I dig it
No,
too, man. Thanks a lot.
yeah, it's rad. And appreciate giving Seth a shout out too. Seth's image, the groom shot that he did is kind of similar to this. I think it won Made with MagMod contest, the monthly contest back like a year ago. So and dude, Seth has like the cutest little boy ever. That
Geo?
yeah, he's repping for the Cavaliers, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
awesome.
it's
I
so
had a
cute.
chance.
So,
I actually had a
oh, go
chance
ahead.
to meet Seth last winter. We both went to um, the two-man workshop together in Canada,
Uh-huh.
and really, I don't know if I would have ever attempted this without listening to him talk about it and how easy they are to create. How you really don't need time. All you need is a camera, a tripod, and a flash with your modifier, and you're basically just good to go. Um, I kept looking at his, and I'm like, man, you're a wizard. How can you do this? It's impossible. I never have the time for composite shots. I used to do a lot of composite portrait photography, like more commercial style, and it was it was so difficult. So I couldn't even fathom that he could do this on a wedding day. And then once I really sat down with him and kind of listened to his thought process behind it, and it really is quite simple. If you can think it out enough ahead of time, to know, again, if you can visualize the photo in your own head ahead of time, you step into the situation. It's pretty simple to pull something like this off. And we're walking around the room individually lighting these guys, and they have no idea what it's going to look like, right? They think we're crazy.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
we're going to take 6 photos and composite them together. And they're like, yeah, okay, guy, whatever you say. And I think that we actually put this in the live edit slideshow on the day. So that goes to show you how easy it is to execute this idea and then how quickly you can edit it. I mean, we put it on an iPad
Yeah.
during the reception and people were able to see it.
Yeah, and these are the type of images. If you want to get referrals, especially from other groomsmen and stuff, these are the kind of images that you have to create because those groomsmen get so stoked and they tell their friends, somebody's getting married and they're like, hey, you want to meet a badass photographer? I got to introduce you to this Jamie Ivins guy,
Yeah.
and I mean those are the ones that really stand out.
I mean,
Hey, Lynn. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. I was going to say, I remember the bride herself being very worried about the groom on the wedding day because she was afraid that he wasn't going to photograph well. He's a little awkward. I mean, you can even tell a bit by his posture here. He's a bit awkward and uncomfortable in front of the camera. But when I showed them this photo and when I shared it with them, I've never had anyone promote an image as much as she did, for me making her husband look like a badass.
Yeah.
Um, so so seriously, like, you're talking about referrals, man. She posted it on every social media channel, tagged it a million times. I see it over and over because she loves it so much. I don't have like that type of relationship with him, so I don't know if he's online or has social media or anything. But the amount that she's spoken about this particular image that she's not even in has brought has brought a ton of
Yeah.
inquiries and stuff our way. So yeah.
Yeah. That's rad, dude. Hey, Lynn just asked, do you have to use Photoshop to do a composite? I'm assuming you did, right?
Yeah, this was all in Photoshop.
Yeah.
You just open each individual file and put a mask on them and painted them in with a white brush.
Yeah. Lynn, if you're interested, we could probably find some kind of link on YouTube to give you a tutorial on how something like this is done. It's a pretty easy process in Photoshop. And then Dan Delstra, he says, "Dang, I feel bad for whoever has to go after Jamie. This work is killer." The funny part about that comment is Dan is scheduled to do one of these live chats with me next week. So he's
So it's him.
yeah, and so he's feeling bad for himself right now having to follow you.
Dude, I've been feeling that way since the very first one of these aired, so I get it.
That's funny, dude. Well, hey, so let's see. How many more images do we have? Do we maybe we
I think we really only have one that's way different.
okay?
I have
Yeah,
this
let's
one
chat about this
still.
one. Cool.
So this one, the couple, these women were getting married at a castle, um, and wanted some portraits with the castle in the background. This was actually, oddly enough, this was a daytime wedding, and everything wrapped, I think, at like 5:30 at night. So this is basically the last frame we walked out with right after sunset, and it was in the spring too. So we had done some other portraits with the castle in the background throughout the day using natural light and all that stuff, and I wasn't really thrilled with any of it. So as we were approaching the end of the night here, or the end of the afternoon, I wanted one more crack at it. So we went out for about 15 minutes for portraits, and we worked up to this idea. So this idea culminated after attempting a lot of other things. And I think that anyone who knows me and the way I talk about my photography and my approach to flash or anything else is that I am very willing and open to failure. I fail a lot before I succeed at something, but that failure is ultimately what gets me to my end goal of a successful image. So this is kind of the perfect scenario of that, where we shot, for quite a while to get what I consider to be the best frame. And we just built and built and built. So we started with them on the wall using flash and creating silhouettes and stuff like that at more of an angle where you could just see kind of the wall behind them. And then once I started to get down to the ground and look up past them is when I was able to start seeing the silhouette of the castle itself in the background. And from there, it came down to playing with different modifiers to find out what we really wanted this image to look like. I am almost positive we ended up using an orange creative gel and a sphere on this. Again, playing on the contrasting colors of this like deep blue twilight sky that we were getting, and then that orange in the bottom of the frame. So the flash here is pretty low to the ground, almost on the ground. I think actually my assistant was laying down with the flash at this point because I didn't know where I wanted it, and I made him move a million times. So he was just laying there holding the flash between the girls so that we could get sort of that rim light around their noses and help pull them away from the background.
I was gonna say, I love how in this shot, how there's just that little bit of light on the foreground, like it's on their faces. So you get this, so you can kind of make out what's happening essentially with that rim light and so forth. But then, like you mentioned, the contrast of colors. This is something that Justin Hagen and I talked about last week. Was just, it's phenomenal when you incorporate that warmth and that coolness. I love it. And then I love your angle, how you got down low so you can kind of show off the castle and the cross and things like that.
Thanks, man. I mean, this was definitely, like I said before, this is after trying many, many things to get here. I originally wanted them silhouetted in this image. I was thinking, oh, cool, we'll have this like really cool orange rim light around their faces, and that's going to be great. And as we started to take those photos, it just wasn't enough. I couldn't see what was happening in the frame. It just looked like a jumbled mess. So I think what we did is we had to obviously adjust the placement of the flash a little bit so we could get some more light around to wrap their faces. But then it came down to powering up the flash, man. I rarely shoot over 1/32 or 1/16 power on my flash, but I think we're at like a half power or maybe even full power at this point, because you wouldn't believe it, but it was actually quite a bit brighter than it looks here outside. It was just getting to that civil twilight. So we just lost the color in the sky and we were just starting to see the blue. So there was still quite a bit of light in the sky. And to really bring down the ambient light and show the blue and still highlight the couple, we ended up having to bump up the flash to almost full power, I believe.
That's crazy, dude. It makes the image even better. Ben Silverstein, he says, I'd like to see some of the frames that didn't work to see how the adjustments proceeded. So
I could definitely throw up a whole. You want to see all 150 of them?
No. Well, we won't see them right now, but for those who are watching on Facebook, maybe Jamie, if you want to pick out one, maybe you can throw it in the comments. Although I gotta admit, doing that, basically you're making yourself naked in front of people. You're like, here's the bad part, but it might be interesting. Well, go ahead. What was that?
My whole approach is happy accidents, so yeah. I'm cool with that, opening myself up in that way, so people can see that. Dude, it takes me I know that some people can just see it right off the bat, and sometimes I can too. But a lot of times I have to work it. Um, I I don't feel that I am quite as creative as a lot of my peers out there, like Laura and Easton, just insanely creative photographers. It's a muscle that I really have to work, and it takes a lot of trial and error for me to get there a lot of times. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to share that with people.
Well, very cool. It looks like Ben Silverstein. So, guys, again, when these videos after we're done, it takes about 10 minutes or so. Then the comments will suddenly start to flow in, and maybe later today or sometime tomorrow, you can share one of those, Jamie. That'd be awesome. And those who are watching on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, and be sure to join the MagMod community on Facebook. Just search MagMod community. Request to join the group, and you'll be able to see these photos and the comments and the follow up that Jamie gives as well. So just want to give that a shout as well. Jamie, I'll tell you what, we've gone a little bit long. Typically we try to keep these, 30, 35 minutes, and I think we're in the 50-minute mark or so. But again, your photos are blowing myself and everyone else away. Let's just end. You have one more image, I think, and I would hate to let it go to waste. I kind of want to share it just so people can learn from it as well. I think it was the one more toast image. Let me see. Yeah, again, I said you're a master of toast. Can you just explain to everyone how you shot this one real quick?
Yeah, again, like this one, it felt easier for me because it's the same approach that I have all the time. The flash. So this space actually, the person giving the toast was on the dance floor, and that was probably 50 feet away from where the couple was sitting. So there was no way I could light both of them in the same frame, right? Um, so I had one flash that was up close to the dance floor, lighting the person giving the toast, and then I had this other light that was kind of stuck between some tables randomly in with the guests, aimed at my couple here, and it's coming from my left side. If you can see the direction of the light, the shadows start. You start seeing the shadows as it goes past his cheek. So, yeah, that light was about 90 degrees probably to my left, aimed directly at them. And then it just came, like this particular image came from shooting through a bunch of candelabras, big candles and stuff that were all over the room. I actually believe that I'm standing behind another table that had a big candle centerpiece. So I'm shooting through that other centerpiece to reach my couple here. So I was shooting it with like an 85, I would say here.
Nice.
And it was just
Very
those
cool,
other
dude.
candles that gave me the bokeh and the streaky light.
Yeah, man, your photos, seriously, they're incredible. And I love how you're just capturing the reactions and stuff. It's insane. So thank you so much for sharing that. Hey, Jamie,
Thank you.
we incredibly appreciative for you taking the time to do this. I know you're doing something tonight. Can you tell everyone what that is? It's the Revive Summit. Is that right?
Yeah, so tonight at 6:30 Eastern, I'm going to be speaking on 7 life-changing off-camera flash tips for the Revive Summit. It's free, so anyone can go and sign up at revivesummit.com. There's actually a lot of great people that are going to be speaking over the course of the week. I believe Nathan Holritz, the Youngrens, Andrew Funderburg. There are a lot of really, really great and talented people that are going to be giving their time there. So yeah, you guys can check it out tonight. There's going to be a lot of MagMod talk because I use MagMod so much, and I believe that's even how I'm kicking the whole thing off is buy some MagMod. It's the first life-changing tip. Yeah, right. So I have
what is your subject tonight?
It's 7 life-changing off-camera flash tips. So it's kind of running the gamut on a bunch of different stuff. One is the equipment that we're using that changed our lives, so it would be life-changing for others as well. Some of it is just, simple things like separating your subject from the background or a go-to one light setup, things like that are really quick and easy. It's mostly geared towards people that are newer to off-camera flash, I would say, or just kind of getting their feet wet. And I mean, I know when I started, it was all so scary and daunting to me. So I'm trying to break it down in a way that people can start using it immediately in their work and have a couple go-to setups or little tidbits of advice where if a subject is bleeding into the background, oh, what can I do quickly and easily that'll help me separate them, stuff like that.
That makes sense, man. That's awesome. So it's revivesummit.com. Tell us one more time the website.
revivesummit.com.
Revivesummit.com. Very cool.
And
then, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you guys can't catch that tonight, or you want to get in depth on off-camera flash, we're actually offering a couple workshops coming up. It's called the Get Lit Workshop. It is almost all about MagMod. And
I like the title, Get Lit Workshop.
Yeah, so we have one coming up February 17th and another one April 14th. And basically, ahead of time, we give our attendees a workshop book, a field guide on all of the basics of off-camera flash. And then once they get here, we start teaching them more advanced techniques. We do a really, really short rundown on the basics, just so everyone knows how shutter speed and aperture and ISO affect the image. And after that, it's all about advanced techniques. It's stuff that we're doing every day. We're showing them actual lighting setups, how we light details and portraits and all of these things. And we also give people some hands-on time to work through it themselves. It is not a portfolio building workshop. I always want to tell people that. We don't hire models and stuff. It is all about practical application and understanding these concepts. So when you are put in a real world situation, you know how to execute, and you're not just trying to think of how you lit this pretty photo that's on your website.
That's awesome. Appreciate you mentioning those. That way, people that want to find out more information. As far as the workshops go, do they just go to your website to find out more information about that?
Yeah, if they go to redwoodandrye.com, we have a For Photographers link. They can go there and sign up directly through our website.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Jamie, you definitely know how to execute, man. It's obvious the way you put the light and use it in your photographs and the color and everything else. It's amazing. So again, we appreciate the time. There's a ton of people mentioning that they appreciated this and they learned from you. And it looks like Margaret even posted a link to the Revive there. So
awesome. Thank you, Margaret.
Margaret. Yeah. So yeah, thank you again, Jamie. Really appreciate your time here, man.
I super appreciate you having me on. It's awesome. I've loved hearing what other people have to say. So I'm really thankful that I could just sit down for a little bit and talk with you guys about what I'm doing.
Awesome. Thank you again, Jamie. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, guys, give the video a like if you're enjoying it. Comment, like it. Do the same on YouTube. Make sure that we know that that these are helpful, and if they are, we'll keep doing them, guys. We'll do them throughout the rest of the year. So thank you again,
cool.
Jamie.
All right. Thanks, Trevor. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, man.